Good morning, guys. I thought today I would talk about 6 reasons why your compressor will not start. Just 6 simple things that will cause it not to run, whether it be the compressor's fault directly or indirectly. A lot of them are indirect. The first one is capacitor failure. We're going to talk about residential HVAC system, single phase. Capacitor failure. If your capacitor is weak or dead, it won't allow the compressor motor to start, so therefore it won't run. And in fact, if it won't start, it may actually overheat as well. And then when you check it between the common winding and the 2 other windings run and start, you'll have open windings until you cool down the compressor or just sit it there so it can cool naturally. The second one is outdoor fan motor failure. This can be because of the capacitor if it doesn't start the outdoor fan motor, or if the fan motor has bad bearings or whatever that's causing it not to run. If the outdoor fan motor doesn't start and you're in air conditioning, then your head pressure will skyrocket. The amps the compressor pulls will skyrocket. The amount of heat in the compressor will skyrocket, and then you'll have overheating of the compressor. You may trip off on high head pressure and then come back on and run again, then trip off again. If it doesn't have the control for high head pressure, it's just going to run until it overheats. And there could be damage because the pressure could get quite high. I believe the head pressure controls on R410A typically are in the 600 psi range, and R22 are the 400 psi range. So you're basically going to be running extremely high head pressures, which are going to pull more amps than the compressor is rated for. It'll end up doing damage to it or just tripping it off on overload, which is what should happen, just trip off on overload. But you never know because it's going to be doing it repeatedly until the problem is solved. Third reason would be float controls. Float switches on your indoor air handler or coil, that in case of a condensate backup inside the house or inside the basement or wherever your furnace or air handler is located, if a lot of water gets into the drain pan, it'll shut the system off. Or if the primary drain backs up, sometimes they'll have an inline float switch. I like to put those in. It might shut your compressor off so it doesn't get any low voltage signal to come on. So all the components could work, but it'll cut the signal just to be on the safe side, so the compressor doesn't run in air conditioning and doesn't produce any more condensate at the evaporator, so you won't have a flooding issue. Because one of the main problems air conditioning causes, ruining people's ceilings. Everybody's gone into a house to see a big stain on the ceiling where the air handler's overflowed or the furnace coil has overflowed. The fourth reason is contactor failure. Contactors fail for a few different reasons. I think the most common, there's 2. The low voltage coil underneath will short and blow the low voltage fuse or transformer, or the actual contacts in the contactor, because they're magnetically pulled down in whenever low voltage coil energizes. Something either gets in those or they become so pitted with carbon that the contacts are no good any longer, and it doesn't conduct electricity. They can become welded shut where the compressor runs all the time, which can be a problem as well. But a lot of times, there'll be bugs get into them, or something will get in between the contacts and won't allow it to pass electricity. The fifth reason is grounding of the compressor. That's an actual failure electrically, where it leaks electricity from the windings to the shell of the compressor. The shell of the compressor then, it leaks to all the copper. When we say electricity leaks, it's only a split second before the breaker will trip. The breaker will then trip, and you'll have an issue. You'll go back and reset the breaker. It'll trip again. You'll call somebody out there, and they'll use either a multimeter or a mega ohm meter to find that the compressor is grounded. The sixth reason is locked rotor. Locked rotor is just a condition where the compressor fails mechanically. Any rotation or movement inside the compressor stops because, for whatever reason, it has broken down inside and is not able to do its work. Like a reciprocating compressor can have damage to one of the rods, and it'll get bound in there and won't be able to move. Same thing with a scroll. Scrolls could have locked rotor too. Scroll plates are kind of like this, but anything can get locked up and damaged on the inside of it, so you can have locked rotor. Sometimes locked rotor will present itself whenever you have a capacitor failure because the compressor can't start without the capacitor, so it appears like locked rotor. It'll pull high amps and shut off. Pull high amps and shut off. You'll hear a little bzzz, bzzz. But it can be just because of the capacitor. Also, hard starts that fail, especially on reciprocating compressors. If there's an unequal balance as far as the back pressure and head pressure, they won't be able to start without a proper hard start. And if the hard start fails or the potential relay fails, you'll have the same condition. So you have to rule out some of the other conditions before you get to lock rotor. But definitely there can be mechanical failures in compressors. There's some of my videos, a commercial train compressor where it's locked. So that's about it. That is 6 reasons your compressor may not start.